Ding dong, mailbag time. You've asked your questions. We are here to answer them. Christine, don't laugh so hard. You know
I'm
I do that
sorry.
now.
Like, this is my favorite segment because you're just no, I need you to just we need like a ding dong remix where it's just Lisa
Okay.
every episode. Ding ding, ding dong, ding dong.
Hey, at least we're having fun with it. Guys, you have questions for us. Keep asking them across social media at Attacking Third. Leave us comments in the chat everywhere, and we get to answer them. We have a couple questions today that we are running through for our mailbag segment. At Shudder to Think 0110 asks, should the NWSL eliminate the neutral site final and award it to the best record team?
Yeah.
Sandra, this is a tricky one because neutral site only came into play in the NWSL in the last couple of years. You've been a part of a lot of different championships at neutral sites, not at neutral sites. So what do you think?
I think been there, done that, moved on from it, got to stay moved on from it. First of all, shout out to a great username. That's great. And great question because I mean, you have to wonder if like we're navigating this new decade of NWSL. So maybe you want to revisit some things. I think that's totally understandable. I don't think this is a thing you revisit. And unfortunately, this is another one of those scenarios that highlights the discrepancies that we navigate when we cover and talk about women's sports and when players have to play in this league. You run into things like, will your main facility be available? Because unless you're Kansas City Current, no one in the NWSL is the primary tenant of the facility in which they play in. And so there's a number of things that come into play. It's like we're talking about a championship final that you are going to have a very short build up to kind of maybe sell tickets. You're going to have a short build up to prepare an event of that very large type of scale. And we saw them try to do it before. That's how the energy was in the early phase, the first half of NWSL's first decade, where it just sort of went to the first seed. And maybe it worked out if you were a Portland Thorns team, that found yourself in a final, but didn't really work out in terms of optics, in terms of ticket sales and things like that. And I think the concept of moving beyond that, making things exciting, making things like an event, special event type of energy, is where the concept of having a neutral site and having a predetermined place in order to go ahead and plan all those things be the right decision to make. So I would like to keep that going. I want to see that energy keep going. It's obviously turned into the league's, I hate to make this comparison, but it's turned into its Super Bowl. It is the biggest. It was the biggest day of the year, and now it has evolved into almost the biggest week of the year for NWSL. And I don't think you can scale back everything that you've sort of built up at this moment to just say it could go to the highest seed.
Yeah, I totally agree with Sandra, actually. I think the neutral site, and maybe my brain jumped to the Super Bowl too. I feel like that's so well run, and I think that seeing the final take shape in this sort of multi-day um, meetings and media and getting more coverage and eyes on, it's been really, really good. I do think it's interesting though. I would like to maybe lean a little bit more Super Bowl-y and that like maybe we choose a location that's warm. Like, consistently just choose, like, big
Fair.
markets that are, like, warm outside, like, that would be cool.
That's fair.
Uh, KCC, like, that was great, but it was kind of interesting the collection of fans that were there because what we did see, it being a neutral site, is a whole lot of current fans still in attendance, a large presence of Washington Spirit fans, and then a smaller constituency of Orlando Pride fans, which is a little bit of a downer considering they managed to pull this off. And I think that that just kind of reflects the fan base, the desire to see games, but also like it's a little bit more of a challenge to get to Kansas City. Flights and costs and things like that associated with it. So, I mean, I think keeping all of those things in mind, like it should be a neutral territory. It shouldn't feel like a home game for anybody. Make everybody a little bit uncomfortable. Make it a bigger spectacle. I'm all for that.
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah.
there's some things to tinker with, but the neutrality of the site isn't it.
What do you think, Lisa?
In regards to 2024, Christine, as you mentioned with KC, you have to remember the current were uh they thought they were going to be in the
They
championship.
were in it. They were in it.
We're in it
They were
until
in it.
the very, very end. With the planning of it, right? There's just I'm going to be real honest right here. The NWSL does not have it together to plan something this organized in a week's time. So if we want all the events leading up to it, there was live podcasts, there was a skills challenge. There's so many things this year. It's become an event, and you can only do that and plan it when it's a neutral. God, you give them 7 days to plan something, that would not happen. It
It
just
would be
wouldn't.
such chaos,
It
such
wouldn't happen.
chaos. The
You
only
can't
way I
do
could see it is if they actually change the style, the format. If they actually change the literal format of the NWSL Championship final, if they really channel their inner European, I guess, and they're like, what if we make it like a two-legged thing? You know,
Yes.
then you're getting into differences. But that's not what the NWSL Championship
It's not going to
is.
happen. So
Yeah.
no, it's nope, it's going to stay a neutral
Right.
site for now. Thanks. I like the question though. Okay, question number 2. Breakfast for dinner XO asks, when Denver and Boston arrive in the NWSL, should the league split into conferences? Denver and Boston set to join the NWSL in 2026 and be the 15th and 16th expansion side. So that would be 8 and 8. Christine, what do you think?
No, no. I feel like, in my opinion, I think that the expansion sides, obviously, it should slow down because the buy-in will get more challenging for teams to add to the league. But I think that slow, steady growth is in the best interest of the broader league. And I think that as it stands, like it's fine. We've seen most commonly leagues are typically like 20 teams, 18 teams. That's normal. I don't think that we need to start branching out yet. I feel like that's when you start to hit like upper numbers. And I feel like those are upper numbers that, the men's leagues have hit domestically, like MLS, which
Right. Well, they have
that's a
like
whole separate conversation and podcast. But I
so
think that
many.
NWSL is in a good growth pattern and there does not need to be conferences separate. It's one league right now. That's it.
Sandra, so what is the number that would constitute separating the NWSL into conferences? How many teams?
Oh my goodness. I hate to be this way, but it probably has to be like at least 30. And I think we're all in agreement where we're just like, pause. No, don't need to do that. Don't want to see that. Especially don't want to see that in like the next couple of years. So listen, I get the pros and cons to having conferences, but I'm not 100% sold on it. And so I'm with Cupo in that I'm just kind of like, no, getting Denver and Boston into the mix just A isn't enough, and B, I don't think it makes it interesting enough. Even though I think some fans might say that that's might be an interesting dynamic and an extra layer of excitement to kind of bring into the league. I don't think 16 teams would be enough to do that. And look, selfishly speaking, there can't be conferences unless you have more teams in central areas of this country. Give me more central teams, and then we can actually talk about conferences. And then maybe I can be swayed a little bit to conferences, because I think the way the map would work right now, I think it really just benefits coastal teams when we're talking about West and East at this point. I
That's
think
what
maybe,
it would be.
I think maybe the league would like to entertain it at some point, and maybe even clubs too, because of things. Look, this country is ginormous, right? We talk about it all the time. Travel is absolutely a thing that we discuss when we're analyzing games or previewing them, about the effects on the body. And so yeah, again, I could see some of the pros in it, and I think maybe even for cost purposes and for travel, again, that might be a thing that the league does visit. But I don't think it's now's the time. And I definitely don't think it's now in 2025 or even in 2026 when 2 more teams come in.
No.
All I just
absolutely
heard is Sandra Herrera, future expansion side CSTFC
Yeah.
proponent, 2027 then?
Me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, no, there are pros to having conferences, right? Think of like we could do a skills challenge with like East versus West or something like that, but we are absolutely not there yet. I don't even think there should be 30 teams, 30 NWSL teams. I
No,
think we
that's
cap it
listen,
at like 18.
going above 18 is nuts.
Yeah,
No.
yeah,
Like,
we
I
cap
feel
it
like
at
there's a
18.
lot of leagues that have actually challenged the fact that there's 20 teams and they want to reduce it back down because
Yep.
you end up getting these like crunchy, stale matchups that you're like, nobody wants to watch that.
Especially considering there's a USL Super League, so there is a Division 1 professional program already competing in the
Yep.
United States with NWSL and the Northern Super League in Canada.
Oh,
So
Canada.
players are being
Yep.
pulled everywhere. Guys, thanks for the questions. We absolutely love them. Hit us up on socials at Attacking Third. I don't know, find producer Mark's contact, send him all your questions. We answer them. Let us know if you have more.